Today, a federal judge did not take immediate action on Minnesota's request for a restraining order to stop the surge of ICE operations in our state. It said the court needs more time to get information in a case the judge called a frontier in constitutional law. Here's Kent.
It's been 5 days since Minnesota's Attorney General and Twin Cities mayors filed a lawsuit in an attempt to freeze the biggest ICE operation in U.S. history.
Because this has to stop.
But in a hearing today, the state argued that the operation keeps growing, now approaching 3,000 federal agents, something the Department of Justice didn't dispute. But Judge Catherine Menendez said she needs more time to review the evidence, calling the issues raised grave and important matters, but adding that they are somewhat frontier issues in constitutional law.
Yeah, this is absolutely a new frontier. We are in completely uncharted waters here as to what the federal government can do, what are the limits on what the federal government can do.
University of Minnesota professor of political science and law Tim Johnson says the record deployment of federal agents here is almost certain to set new precedent in court. But he's not sure the case the state is making will be the lawsuit that does it.
We allege that the obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity, for our democracy, and our differences of opinion with the federal government is a violation of the Constitution.
A state simply telling the federal government, we don't want you here, is really a difficult argument to make if for no other reason than Article 6 of the Constitution, and that is the Supremacy Clause. The federal government and its laws reign supreme over all state laws, all local laws. And so if the federal government says we have a problem in Minnesota or North Dakota or Kentucky or Louisiana, and we don't think the state is taking care of that problem, we will come in and we will solve that problem.
But Johnson says how federal agents go about solving that problem matters a lot, which is why he's more closely watching another lawsuit recently filed.
Transparency matters. Observation matters.
Susan Tincher.
What happened to me sends a message.
Was among 6 Minnesotans who sued back in December, accusing ICE of violating their First and Fourth Amendment rights.
I was on a public street. I did not cross any line or interfere with anything. Within seconds, officers rushed me, grabbed me, and slammed me face first into the snow.
The claims to stop this actually have to be civil liberties claims and civil rights claims that those rights are being violated. The lawsuit needs to be won by the observers, by people who have been detained and then have had their car window smashed, have been slammed to the ground. The aggregation of all of those lawsuits will have a pretty marked effect on how far ICE can go in Minnesota and in other states once they move on.
There was a hearing yesterday for that second lawsuit brought by Minnesota ICE observers and the ACLU. They are pushing for a more limited injunction on the way that ICE conducts its enforcement while here. But the Justice Department says an attempt to police tactics would be overreach. Judge Menendez is on that case as well and could issue a decision, we're told, as soon as tomorrow. Jana.
Well, Kent, Susan Tincher, who you highlighted in that story in North Minneapolis, I talked to her back in early December when that incident happened. We've seen several more incidents of observers being taken in and not charged since. So more lawsuits coming, or what's happening in that front?
Absolutely. We know the ACLU is planning to announce more lawsuits tomorrow. And if anything, we have observed that these tactics are getting more aggressive, pulling people out. And as you said, not charging anyone with obstruction here, just simply detaining them and then letting them go. So we'll see where this goes.
All right. Well, something to keep attention to is the courts. We know they don't move very quickly, but there could be a judgment tomorrow that will give us some indications on where things go next. Thank you so much, Kent.